My 600-pound life is back. If you're a fan of the show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and also let me know your thoughts of the episode in the comments. And so now we're on season 12, episode 1. In this episode, we meet Krystal. Krystal lives in Idaho. In the beginning of the episode, we see where she's trying to get out of bed. She's laying there and she says, thank God that it's another day that she's alive or something to that effect. So in saying that, I was like, oh boy, what does she look like? Because it's hinting at major issues that you're just happy to be alive. Of course, on a normal basis, we're happy to be alive, but I feel like that was related to, the state of her medical condition or her weight. So she says she's in a lot of pain because of the weight, and she also tells us that her bones are rapidly aging because of the weight. And we see where she, they're doing the shower scene. She has to get in the shower. She's back moving with her parents because she needs a lot of help. So she's living with her mom and her dad. And she has two daughters, Rai and Faith. And then we meet her fiance, Damien. And so she gets into the shower. He has to help her because she can only do so much. She talks about with all the folds and whatnot, she's not able to clean herself properly. And she mentions like yeast infection in the folds or something like, I didn't know you could get yeast infection under skin like that. Oh, this is new. But anyway, she says she has to get help from him. And we see where he turns on and off the shower for her, whatever. It looks like she got in the shower by herself. So she says she has a new stool now for the shower because her other one broke. So now she's using her mom's bar stool. And I was just like, wow, this bar stool needs a sponsorship for keeping her upright because it doesn't look like anything, high end. And she's weighing a lot. And that's holding her up, and it hasn't broken as yet. So I was just like, wow. So anyway, we hear a little bit about her life growing up. She mentioned that, she was, I think she was the last of 3 kids for her parents. And she mentioned that when she was in kindergarten, she was already weighing 105 pounds. She mentions that her parents both worked. And so while they were at work, they could eat pretty much whatever they want. And so that kind of contributed to her weight being so out of hand early on. And she also mentions that, she was at 200 pounds by the time she was 10. And after that, or around that point, was when she got hit by a vehicle crossing the street. And so, when she was recovering, that was kind of her excuse, in a sense, to eat whatever she wanted. She also mentioned that both her parents were alcoholics, so they would go out to the bars, and when they would come back home or whatever, they would be fighting. And so food was kind of a comfort to her, an escape for her. And so, she feels that that kind of contributed to her weight because, of the things that were happening and how she dealt with them. And she says in her early 20s, she was already 400 pounds, and now she's over 600 pounds, she feels. So she mentions that she doesn't want to get married until she gets her health in order. So, she also talks about her children. She mentions that she had her first son, Devin, at 16, and she says how he saved her life because he kind of gave her some purpose. We didn't really see him in this episode, not that I recall. And she mentions how it was difficult for her after she finished high school because she had him at 16, and her mom had mentioned that, she would keep the baby so she could finish high school. Another thing her mom mentioned was that when she was growing up, that she didn't really, prior to like the accident, she didn't really eat much more than her siblings were eating, but she was born a big baby. She was like 9 pounds something. And you could see in the baby photos that she was pretty chunky. So I guess a part of her weight could be maybe attributed to genetics possibly, because she was, pretty hefty as a baby. But anyway, so she had that first child, and then she was married when she had her first daughter, Rai. And then that marriage didn't work out, and then she was married again to Faith's dad, and that marriage didn't last either. So she mentioned that her fiance, now Damien, that they had met when she was 9, and that they had lost touch, but they're back in touch again. I didn't catch if they said how long they had been together, and I don't think they said what he does, but he's the main person helping her out, along with her older daughter, Rai. Now, Rai, they didn't say, I didn't catch how old she was, but she seems she has to be at least a high schooler, although we don't see her going to school, so maybe she's already graduated. So it's between Rai and Damien, who gives her a lot of the help that she needs. Now, I noticed we see in this episode as well, when breakfast time came after the shower, that she was eating a lot. I guess it's not as bad as on some other episodes, but she made a lot of eggs and she was having bacon. And Rai was putting it down too, and she's already on the heavy side. So I hope she's, careful with her weight and kind of learn from what her mom's going through and not get up to the weight that her mom is. But she seems that she could potentially be predisposed for, obesity probably. So Krystal drives. We see where she goes to do food shopping, and of course, when she leaves the house or to move about, she has to be in her wheelchair. And I wonder if it's really safe for her to be driving because, with all the health issues that she has, the fact that she can't really move around, her heart is probably not that great. I don't know if it's wise for her to be driving because something could happen to her at any point. Her heart could give out or anything else. So I was surprised that she was the one who was driving. So she says they go to the store like twice a month. We see where they're shopping, steak, pasta, cake, and all that. And I was like, where's the healthy food? Nothing. I think I saw a package of slaw or lettuce or something like that. But other than that, it was pretty much all junk food, which I guess what was I expecting because, of her weight. It's because of how she eats. She mentioned that, she had tried in the past to lose weight, but nothing pretty much worked, but I don't know how hard she had tried. They also talk about how, when she goes out, she feels kind of anxious when she has to leave the house because people laugh at her and people take pictures of her, which I felt really terrible for her. Why would people do that? On a normal basis, you don't or shouldn't take pictures of people without their permission. And so the fact that people are doing that is just so messed up. And so that really hurts Damien for what she's going through. And Faith says, she's kind of mad at that. And she loves her mom and that she loves her just the way she is. And it's not about her weight. She's just such a sweet kid. And so, I just felt really, really bad for her. And, in seeing this, usually when you see people out and about and they're, obese, on the obese side, you don't really think about what they go through on a daily basis. But in seeing this, I was just like, man, this is really terrible, especially with phones nowadays. People just don't have any privacy. So we see where they're heading to Texas to see Dr. Now. Faith is staying back with her grandma, and when it's time to leave, Krystal is crying, and we see Faith wiping away her tears and giving her a kiss. She's just such a sweet little girl. So we're told that it's a 25-hour drive to get to Texas. They're not quite sure how long it's going to take, and we see where she's rolling out in the back of the SUV. It looks like maybe in the cargo area. So it's her, Damien, Rai, and the dog. So after 4 hours, they have to stop because the car overheated. There's fluids everywhere. So they're kind of stuck on the highway. We're told that they're in some region of Colorado. And so they had to have that car towed. And then Damien went with the vehicle. And then Rai and Krystal took an Uber back to the hotel that they planned on staying for the night. So we're told that they had to push the appointment back And then they ended up renting a minivan because the car was just pretty much, I guess, done for. We didn't see what became of the car. We know it was left there wherever they were at for that night, and they rented something else. We're told that they had to get money from the family and friends to be able to rent this new vehicle. Right away, though, we see in the minivan that there's junk everywhere, junk food. We see like cans of whatever. And then, of course, they're showing Rai snacking on potato chips. I guess that's supposed to give us some kind of impression. So they get to Dr. Now's office. They do the regular routine. She gets her weigh-in. She's coming in at just about 610 pounds. But she is relieved that she hasn't yet exceeded 700 pounds. But at the same time, she is ashamed because of her weight being so high, and she hopes that Dr. Now can help her. So in the conversation with Dr. Now, we find out that it took them like 4 days to get there. So Dr. Now asks, so what brought you here? She says, to get the bariatric surgeries. And he's like, so your idea to fix this problem is to get bariatric surgery? She's like, yep. Dr. Now, really? It's almost like he's like, oh, so you really think it's just going to be that easy, huh? You just come in here, I'm going to give you the surgery. So anyway, he asks her, what's new now after 36 years that you're just now wanting to do something? You know, he says, why didn't you know, before that you needed to do something? Dr. Now is harsh. So she says that her health is declining, and he tells her it's been declining for a while now. You have a bunch of issues that he lists: heart problems, reflux, her blood pressure, and God knows what else. And so he goes on to ask who's in the household, who's all buying all this junk. So she says everybody, her, Damien, Rai. So he tells her that in light of all this, how's it going to work when everybody else in the house is eating junk? So she tells him that everybody's going to go on the diet with her. Everybody's going to be super supportive of her. But I was like, really? Did she just lie to Dr. Now? Because we didn't see where anybody promised to be on the diet, at least not that I saw. So I was really wondering if anybody really promised this to her, or she's just saying this just because she wants Dr. Now to say yes. So anyway, he tells her, listen, there's no need for you to come back here unless you're going to change your eating habits. So here's the plan. He goes over it with her. I need you to do exercise for 1 hour a day in the morning and in the evening. And she needs to stick with a high protein, low calorie diet of 1,200 calories per day. And she needs to lose 80 pounds before she comes back. So after Dr. Now finishes the appointment, he says he doesn't know if Krystal understands the dire situation that she's in, but he doesn't want her back in his office with excuses. So anyway, he tells her after he came back, after he went to get the pamphlet and went back in to explain everything to her, he goes on to tell Rai and Damien that, look, she's going to need a lot of support. Her body's carrying around about 500 pounds of extra weight, and it's very dire, and her situation medically is getting worse and worse every day. It's a huge risk to her body carrying all this weight. So Krystal leaves Dr. Now's office saying she's ready for a change. So we'll see. So we see her back home, and she and her mom are doing their exercises. She says that she's the only one on the diet because everyone else feels like it was just too much for them. And so she says she feels alone, but she knows it's for her. So she's got to focus on what she needs to do. So we see where she's having breakfast after she did her workout. She had eggs, scrambled eggs, and I think she had some bacon. But I did see that she was looking on her phone to see what she could have. So I'm like, okay, that's a promising sign. She's not just randomly eating stuff. So, but we only saw that one scene of her eating before she headed back to Dr. Now. So fingers crossed that she's been following the diet. So she heads back to Dr. Now, and she says that she's upped her walking. I couldn't tell from looking at her if she lost any weight, but when she did her weigh-in, she was down to 619 pounds. So she has lost 71 pounds It's not quite 80 pounds, but that's pretty good. So she hopes that she'll get approved for the surgery. So after her weighing, Dr. Na comes in, asks her how long it took her to get there, little chit chat, and he's impressed that she was able to lose, although it wasn't 80 pounds, that's still a good amount of weight that she's lost. He tells her to keep it up, and he will approve her for the surgery. She just needs to continue losing weight before she can have the surgery. He wants her in the 500s before she moves to Texas. So she's very happy. She feels like she can pretty much see the finish line. 5 months later, we're seeing that she's getting married, and we see Rai doing her makeup. Her mom's happy for both of them, and we see a little bit of the backyard ceremony that she has. Krystal's, I was happy to see that Krystal was sticking to her diet, because I thought when it was time to eat for this ceremony that she would indulge with everything else that we're having. It was like pretty much a barbecue kind of menu. And so she was having grilled chicken and some kind of salad of sorts. So that was good that, she was sticking to that. And she says she hopes that in a year, on their 1-year anniversary, that they can have their first dance. So she seems to be doing pretty well. So later we see at month 7 that she tells us that she had to move out of her parents' house because they were selling their house. So she is living in a friend's greenhouse for the past few weeks, she says, but she's keeping up with the program. So we see where she's in this greenhouse, and the floors was unfinished. It just looks like a storage room, but I guess she has to do what she has to do. She has to live somewhere. She didn't say where the children were. It didn't seem like they were in the greenhouse with her, so they must have been staying somewhere else. So month 8, they finally found a place in Texas, so they're moving to Texas. Her sister-in-law is going to drive her, while Damien's going to be driving the moving truck. We see where everybody's crying when it's time to leave. And oh my goodness, they had me crying too when the kids started crying. Here I am boohooing. Oh my gosh. So Krystal is nervous to see Dr. Now again. She hopes that she's done everything that's expected of her. And it's time for her appointment. And the fact that she's worried about what she's been doing, I just wonder what's been happening that we haven't seen. Has she been binging out or what's going on? So she's getting, she should be losing, what did Dr. Now say? He wanted her to get down in the 500s. She's guessing that based on 20 pounds per month that she should have lost 100 pounds since her last weighing. And so she's nervous. Well, when it was weighing time, she was only at 608 pounds. So she's lost only 11 pounds. I was like, ooh, what happened? She was doing so good. And then it's only 11 pounds. But I'm like, okay, I'm sure Dr. Now is going to grill her, so we'll find out what really happened. What happened? So Dr. Now comes in. He's concerned that she didn't lose any weight. Well, he says, you didn't lose any weight. But she lost 11. What do you mean she didn't lose any? So he says, he's happy that at least she didn't gain anything. So he'll move forward with moving with her surgery plans. However, he's going to give her another chance to get back on track. She needs to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. He asked her about her exercise. She says she's been moving more. And he says he noticed that she walked in from the waiting room. So he wants her to keep up her exercising. Later, we see where she's back home. And she says she's following the diet to a T. We see her and Damien exercising after breakfast, using some veggie cans for their weights. And they're out on the little deck or patio. No, it's a deck. Doing their exercises. So she seems to be taking it seriously. So a month later, they're back to see Dr. Now, and she did it. She got her weight down to 570 pounds, and they had the little suspense thing where the little lines are going back and forth, blinking on the scale. I'm like, come on. What is it? And when the weight finally came on the scale, Damien's jaw fell. He was like, he couldn't believe she did it. So she lost another 38 pounds. And so she was so relieved and happy. She's excited. So Dr. Now will have her scheduled for the surgery. If everything goes well with her tests, she'll have the surgery in a month. So he's going to make sure her heart is healthy and can tolerate the surgery. If the tests don't come back where they need to be, then she will need to lose more weight. So a month later, we see where she's getting her surgery. She says she's looking forward to having a better life with Damien and being a better mom to her kids. So the plan is that after her surgery, she will need to be on a liquid diet for a month. Dr. Now says she should be able to lose around 25 pounds in that month. And then after that, with a proper diet, she should lose 15 pounds a month after that. So we'll see how that goes. So we get an update after a month after her surgery. She says she's back on solid foods. She's lost 30 pounds. So now she's really motivated to keep losing weight. Month 12. And in the closing scene here for her, we see where she's lost a total of 186 pounds. She's down 44 pounds since the surgery. So she's really, really happy. And you could tell that the weight, she's lost a bit of weight. She's moving around a lot more. So we see where she goes to the grocery store. And so this time we're not seeing a bunch of junk like she was shopping for before. She's got mostly veggies. She's walking in to the store. And so she's doing really well. She's getting up and moving, as she said. And in the final scene, we see where they're at the park as a family because she's been wanting to do more things with the family. That was one of her goals in her weight loss. So they're at the park, her, Damien, Faith, and Rai. And so Faith was like, she wants to teach her to do gymnastics. It was so cute. So she did a really great job. It's really hard to lose weight, even for a person who only wants to lose like maybe 20, 30 pounds. That is difficult to do. So, she's done a great job. It's very commendable that she's been able to successfully complete everything because not everybody's been able to do so in the past. So good for her. Let me know your thoughts on the episode. Like, comment, and subscribe.